sleep. Relax your mind and body as you prepare your journey to a peaceful slumber while we whisper the story of a sleep story called The Dream of the Lost Grace. It is a tale of a young woman named Elara who lives in a forgotten village at the edge of a vast, enchanted forest. The village, once a thriving community, is now in decline, its people losing hope and connection to the land. Elara, driven by a deep-seated dream, embarks on a perilous journey into the forest to find the legendary Lost Grace, a mythical flower said to bring back prosperity and vitality. Along the way, she encounters mystical creatures, faces her deepest fears, and uncovers the true meaning of grace and community. With the help of an unlikely ally, Elara discovers that the key to her village renewal lies not in a flower, but in the strength and unity of its people. We hope you enjoy this story. The Dream of the Lost Grace. In the lands of the lands between, where ancient stone titans guard forgotten secrets, and the echoes of ancient sorcery linger in the air, there once lived a young tarnished named Lyra. She had returned to the shattered realm, driven by a desperate desire to reclaim her grace, the divine essence that had been lost when the great Elden ring was shattered. The lands between, once a beacon of light and prosperity, now lay in ruins, its skies perpetually dark, and its land dominated by monstrous creatures and fearsome spirits. Lyra's journey was fraught with peril, but she was undetermined, for she had a vision. A dream that promised not only her own salvation, but the restoration of the lands between to its former glory. Lyra's story began in a dimly lit, forsaken village at the edge of Limgrave. The village, long abandoned by the living, was a sanctuary for the tarnished, those who had lost their grace and were now little more than shadows of their former selves. Here, Lyra met a wise, old finger reader named Eric, who had once been a priestess of the Erdtree, the sacred tree that once held the great Elden ring. Eric, with her weathered face and eyes that seemed to hold the knowledge of 1,000 lifetimes, took Lyra under her wing, teaching her the ancient runes and the secrets of the lands between. Lyra, Eric said one night, her voice a soothing whisper in the dark, the lands between are a place of magic and terror, of light and shadow. To find your grace, you must face your fears and embrace your destiny. The path is long and perilous, but you are not alone. The spirits of the Erdtree will guide you, and the strength within you will see you through. Lyra nodded, her heart beating faster with a mix of fear and excitement. She had heard the tales of the lands between, the stories of the demigods and the powerful sorceries that lay hidden in its ruins. She knew that the journey would be fraught with danger, but she also knew that she had no choice. She was a tarnished, and reclaiming her grace was the only way to find her place in the world once more. The first step, Eric provided Lila with a map of the lands between, a parchment that had been passed down through generations of finger readers. It was a map filled with cryptic symbols and ancient markers, leading to the major landmarks of the realm, the Church of Ellie, the Stormvale Castle, and the catacombs of the Kyria Manor. Lyra studied the map carefully, committing each symbol to memory. She knew that the key to her journey lay in the ruined capital, the heart of the lands between, where the great Elden ring was said to have shattered. With a heavy heart and a bag of meager supplies, Lyra set out from the village. The path ahead was uncertain, and the air was thick with the scent of decay and the whispers of the dead. As she walked, the sky above began to darken, and the wind picked up, carrying the distant howls of packs of nightfall hounds. Lyra pressed on, her resolve unwavering. The first landmark on her map was the Church of Ellie, a place of ancient worship and mystery. As she approached, the ruins of the church loomed before her, its spires reaching towards the sky like the fingers of a forgotten god. Lyra pushed open the heavy, creaking doors and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit by a few scattered torches, casting long shadows that danced across the crumbling walls. In the center of the chamber stood a statue of the Erdtree, its branches reaching out as if to embrace the tarnished. Suddenly, the air grew thick with a sense of presence. Lyra turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows of spectral night, clad in ancient armor and wielding a gleaming sword. The knight's eyes glowed with a faint, ethereal light, and Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her. "Welcome, Tarnished," the knight said in a voice that was both grave and gentle. "I am Sir Roderick, a guardian of the Erdtree. You seek the lost grace, do you not?" Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of hope. "Yes, Sir Roderick. I must reclaim it to restore the lands between." Sir Roderick smiled, a rare and comforting sight. "Then you must first prove your worth. The Erdtree will only bestow its blessings upon the worthy. Follow me, and I will guide you through the trials ahead." Lyra followed Sir Roderick through the winding corridors of the Church of Ellie, each step echoing in the silence. They came to a chamber filled with intricate puzzles and traps, designed to test the mind and the spirit. Lyra solved each puzzle with a mix of intelligence and intuition, and as she did, the air around her grew warmer, the shadows receding. Finally, they reached a small, hidden room at the heart of the church. In the center of the room, a small pool of water shimmered with a light that seemed to come from another world. Lyra approached the pool, feeling a strange pull from within. "This is the pool of reflection," Sir Roderick explained. "Look into it, and you will see the truth of your heart." Lyra gazed into the pool, and as she did, images began to form in the water. She saw her past, the moments of joy and the moments of pain, the times she had felt lost and the times she had felt whole. But more than that, she saw her future, a future where she could reclaim her grace and bring light back to the lands between. The trials of the catacombs with newfound determination, Lyra left the Church of Ellie and continued her journey towards the catacombs of the Caria Manor. The catacombs were said to be a labyrinth of death and darkness, guarded by the spirits of the dead and the wrath of the demigods. Lyra knew that she would need all her strength and cunning to navigate the treacherous tunnels. As she descended into the catacombs, the air grew colder, and the light from her torch flickered ominously. The walls were lined with ancient graves, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, but she pushed forward, guided by the map and her resolve. She soon encountered the first of the catacombs' guardians, a massive, skeletal dragon, its eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. The dragon let out a deafening roar, and Lyra felt the ground beneath her shake. She drew her sword, a simple but sturdy blade that Eric had given her, and prepared for battle. The dragon lunged, its massive claws tearing at the air. Lyra dodged, her movements fluid and precise. She knew that she could not defeat the dragon in a head-on fight, so she used her agility to circle around it, striking at its vulnerable spots. The battle was fierce, but Lyra's determination never wavered. Finally, with a powerful blow, she drove her sword deep into the dragon's heart, and it let out a final, mournful cry before collapsing to the ground. Lyra caught her breath, her heart still racing. She had faced her first true test, and she had emerged victorious. She felt a surge of confidence, but she knew that the trials ahead would be far more challenging. As she continued deeper into the catacombs, Lyra encountered a series of traps and puzzles, each more complex than the last. She used her wits to solve the puzzles, and her agility to avoid the traps. The catacombs were a maze of darkness and death, but Lyra's spirit shone bright, a beacon of hope in the shadows. Finally, she reached the heart of the catacombs, a vast chamber filled with the tombstones of the Caria family. In the center of the chamber stood a massive, ornate sarcophagus, its surface adorned with intricate carvings. Lyra approached the sarcophagus, her heart pounding with anticipation. Tarnished, a voice whispered from within the sarcophagus. "You have proven your worth, but the true test lies ahead. The demigods of the lands between will not give up their power easily. You must face them, and you must prevail." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. The demigods were powerful beings, each with their own unique abilities and fearsome weapons. She knew that facing them would be the ultimate test of her strength and resolve. The battle at Stormbale Castle with a heavy heart. Lyra left the catacombs and set her sights on Stormbale Castle, the fortress of the demigod Margit, the fell omen. Stormbale Castle was a place of dark magic and ancient secrets, and Lyra knew that she would need all her skills to navigate its treacherous halls. As she approached the castle, she saw a massive, Gothic structure rising from the mist, its towers reaching towards the sky like the fingers of a dying god. The castle was surrounded by a moat, and the only way in was a rickety bridge that creaked under her feet. Lyra crossed the bridge, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. The castle gates were heavily guarded, but Lyra used her stealth and agility to slip past the sentries. She moved through the castle's shadowy corridors, her senses heightened by the danger that lurked around every corner. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the walls seemed to close in around her. Lyra's journey through the castle was a series of close calls and narrow escapes. She avoided traps and defeated lesser foes, but she knew that the real challenge lay ahead. Finally, she reached the throne room where Margit, the fell omen, awaited her. Margit was a terrifying sight, his body twisted and malformed, his eyes glowing with a malevolent light. He wielded a massive spear, and his presence filled the room with a sense of dread. "Welcome, Tarnished," Margit said, his voice a deep, resonant growl. "You dare to challenge me, the fell omen. You are a fool, but perhaps a worthy one. Let us see what you are made of." Lyra braced herself as Margit charged, his spear blazing with dark energy. The battle was brutal, with Margit using his superior strength and magical abilities to overwhelm her. But Lyra was quick and agile, dodging his attacks and striking back with precision. She used her knowledge of the castle's layout to her advantage, leading Margit into traps and using the environment to her benefit. The battle raged on, and Lyra's strength began to wane. She was no match for Margit's raw power, but she refused to give up. She remembered Eric's words in the pool of reflection, and she drew on the strength of her spirit. With a final, desperate strike, she plunged her sword into Margit's chest, and he let out an agonized cry before collapsing to the ground. Lyra stood over his body, her breath ragged, but her heart filled with a sense of victory. She had faced her greatest fear and emerged victorious, but she knew that this was only the first of many battles to come. The path to the ruined capital with Margit's defeat. Lyra felt a surge of energy. She knew that the path to the ruined capital was now clear, but she also knew that the challenges ahead would be even greater. The ruined capital was the heart of the lands between, the place where the great Elden ring had shattered, and where the demigods now ruled with an iron fist. Lyra's journey to the ruined capital was a long and arduous one. She traveled through the misty forests of Liurnia, the frozen wastes of mountaintops of the giants, and the haunting ruins of Caelid. Each step of her journey brought her closer to her goal, but it also brought her face to face with the Tarnished and the demigods who had returned to the realm. In Liurnia, Lyra met a young sorceress named Alyssa, who had returned to the lands between to seek vengeance against the demigods who had destroyed her home. Alyssa joined Lyra on her journey, using her knowledge of ancient magic to help them navigate the dangers of the land. Together, they faced the fearsome Godric, the Grafted, in the ruins of a once glorious castle. Godric was a formidable opponent, his body augmented with the power of the Erdtree, but Lyra and Alyssa worked together, using their skills and wits to defeat him. In the mountaintops of the giants, Lyra and Alyssa encountered a powerful warrior named Thord, who had returned to reclaim his lost honor. Thord joined their cause, and together they faced the fearsome Rykard, the beast incarnate in the dark, icy forests. Rykard was a master of transformation, able to shift between human and beast forms, but Lyra and her companions were able to help maneuver him. striking a decisive blow that brought him to his knees. Finally, they reached the ruined capital, a place of ancient ruins and forgotten glory. The city was dominated by the massive, crumbling structure of the Erdtree, its branches reaching out like the fingers of a dying god. Lyra knew that this was the place where she would find her true test, the place where she would reclaim her grace and restore the lands between. The final test as Lyra, Elisa, and Ford approached the Erdtree. They were met by a powerful demigod known as the Red Wolf of Radagon. The Red Wolf was a fearsome creature, his body covered in glowing red runes that pulsed with dark energy. He stood between Lyra and the Erdtree, his eyes filled with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. Tarnished, the Red Wolf growled, "You have come far, but your journey ends here. The grace of the Erdtree will never be yours." Lyra drew her sword, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She knew that this was her final test, the moment that would determine her fate and the fate of the lands between. The battle was intense, with the Red Wolf using his magical abilities to rain down bolts of energy and create illusions that disoriented her. Lyra, Elisa, and Thord fought with all their might, using their combined skills to outmaneuver the Red Wolf. Elisa's sorcery provided a shield against his attacks, while Thord's strength and combat skills allowed them to hold their ground. Lyra, however, was the key to their victory. She used her agility and precision to strike at the Red Wolf's vulnerabilities, and with a final, powerful blow, she drove her sword into his heart. The Red Wolf let out a final, mournful cry before collapsing to the ground, his body dissolving into a cloud of dark energy. Lyra stood over his body, her heart pounding with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. She had faced her final test, and she had emerged victorious. The Erdtree with the Red Wolf defeated. The path to the Erdtree was clear. Lyra, Elisa, and Ford approached the massive tree, its branches reaching out like a protective embrace. The air around them grew warm, and a sense of peace and light filled the chamber. Lyra approached the base of the Erdtree, her heart filled with a sense of reverence. She placed her hand upon the tree's trunk, and a warm golden light enveloped her. She felt the power of the Erdtree flowing through her, a divine essence that filled her with a sense of purpose and strength. "Lyra," a voice whispered in her mind, "you have proven yourself worthy. The grace of the Erdtree is yours to reclaim." Lyra felt the lost grace flowing back into her, a sensation of warmth and light that filled her entire being. She felt stronger, more determined, and more connected to the world around her. She knew that she had found her true calling, and that the restoration of the lands between was within her reach. The dream of the lost grace as Lyra stood before the Erdtree, her companions by her side. She felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she also knew that she had taken the first step towards restoring the lands between to its former glory. The Erdtree's light grew brighter, and Lyra felt herself being pulled into a deep, dreamlike state. She closed her eyes, and the world around her faded away, replaced by a vision of the lands between as it once was, a realm of light and beauty, where the Erdtree stood tall and proud, and the great Elden ring shone like a beacon in the sky. In her dream, Lyra saw herself standing at the heart of the Erdtree, her sword held high. The Tarnished and the demigods gathered around her, their eyes filled with hope and reverence. She felt the power of the Erdtree flowing through her, and she knew that she was the key to the realm's restoration. "Lyra," a voice whispered in her mind, "you are the chosen one, the one who will bring light back to the lands between. The path ahead is long and perilous, but you are not alone. The spirits of the Erdtree will guide you, and the strength within you will see you through." Lyra opened her eyes, and the dream faded, but the sense of purpose and strength remained. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she also knew that she was ready for whatever lay ahead. She turned to her companions, her heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Without you, I would never have made it this far. Together, we will restore the lands between to its former glory." Kalisa and Thorn smiled, their faces filled with a mixture of pride and hope. "We are with you, Lyra," Kalisa said, her voice soft but determined. "To the end." Thor nodded, his eyes filled with a fierce determination. "We will stand by your side, no matter the cost." Lyra turned back to the Erdtree, her heart filled with a sense of peace and purpose. She knew that the road ahead was long and fraught with danger, but she also knew that she had the strength and the support she needed to face it. The dream of the lost grace was no longer just a vision. It was a reality, and Lyra was ready to embrace it. I hope you've enjoyed this whispery sleep story, and you